Friday night in Eugene, Oregon, a riot was declared following protests at the federal building. But what's being reported by law enforcement and corporate media doesn't seem to be an accurate reflection of events. The version of events that we're getting from Eugene police and the press down there doesn't seem to be matching what we're hearing from trusted organizers on the ground. Forgive me for using the googly eye overlay. I'm not at home. I don't have my laptop. So let's read what OPB had to say. And then let's hear what the Lane County Immigration Defense Network says happened. OPB is a news source I generally consider trustworthy. They said protest in Eugene declared a riot by police after day-long general strike events on Friday, January 30th. First off, for those of you who aren't from Oregon, Eugene is a college town. University of Oregon is there. But Eugene in general has a long, proud history of social justice work and activism. According to OPB, protesters lined the streets around the building throughout the day, holding signs and chanting in opposition to federal immigration enforcement. It's not really federal immigration enforcement at all, though. I think what they were chanting in opposition to was ICE's reign of terror and the absolute tyranny of the federal government. The demonstrations were part of a nationwide general strike that was held on Friday. Sorry to come back to this again, but I'm really going to take issue with the characterization that any of us participating in the general strike on Friday or the protests on Saturday or anybody in the pro-democracy resistance movement is really opposed to immigration enforcement, because that's not what's happening in the United States. Can we please start calling a fig and stop using euphemisms and stop trying to characterize things as something other than they are? We're opposed to fascism. We're opposed to an ethnic cleansing of immigrants, the absolute inhumanity and illegality of what the regime is doing, how they are using immigration and customs enforcement as a violent paramilitary. By late Friday afternoon, some protesters had pushed up against the building, banging on the doors and windows and spraying graffiti on the walls. At least one window had been damaged, according to the Daily Emerald. OPB is careful not to say protesters broke out that window, but I saw several other sources claiming that protesters smashed out the window, and that's why a riot was declared. Because in the United States, for some reason, we tend to see vandalism as violence, breaking windows as violence, but law enforcement breaking the bodies of Americans, we don't seem to see that as violence. So Eugene police declared a riot around 6 p.m. They rolled in with their speakers saying, "You're ordered to disperse. A riot has been declared." Convenient way of short-circuiting people's First Amendment right to protest. So unlike Portland police, which after the 2020 protests here are no longer allowed to use tear gas against Portlanders in the course of their duties, except under extreme circumstances, I believe, Eugene police apparently can, because they said unless the protesters dispersed, they were going to use tear gas or flashbangs, etc. Apparently, Eugene police think this constitutes de-escalation. Okay. Eugene police released a statement saying some protesters breached the building and went inside, although KLCC News could not confirm that claim. Right, the Eugene Police Department Chief Chris Skinner basically said we had to break this up so that we didn't end up with a deadly confrontation between protesters, meaning we were worried immigration and customs enforcement or whatever federal agents were in the building were going to kill protesters. That's what they meant. A group of dark-colored vehicles entered the underground parking area beneath the building after 7 p.m. Then, just before 7:30, law enforcement tear-gassed protesters. OPB is clear here that federal agents used chemical munitions to push protesters back as they took over the scene and created a barrier between protesters and the building. Eugene police said they did not use any munitions. The rep for this area is Democrat Val Hoyle. She posted about it on X on Saturday, praising the Eugene police's attempt to de-escalate tensions. Hoyle also took to social media to encourage people to protest peacefully. I'm really tired of members of Congress, including my Congresswoman, including Val Hoyle, saying peaceful protest. Effective protest has to be disruptive, doesn't have to be violent. Please stop saying peaceful. Peaceful equates to ineffective. Non-violent but disruptive equates to social change. Breaking into the federal building isn't peaceful protesting, Representative Hoyle said, and makes the action of protesting one we will need to keep engaged in for the long term, more dangerous for everyone. Okay, so here's a shot of what the protest looks like. Thank you to KLCC News for that. And because this is Oregon and we're not as lefty as you might think outside of urban areas, there were counter-protesters with their "I love ICE," aka "I'm a big fucking bootlicker" signs on. And because Oregon is full of a lot of two-wayers, call themselves Oregonians for a reason, those counter-protesters showed up armed. The counter-protesters at this event, much like the ones in Portland yesterday, much like any right-wing counter-protesters anywhere, their goal is to get you drawn in and start an argument with you, right? They're trying to distract you. They're trying to get you all riled up so that you do something foolish in the moment. They're there to antagonize. That's why it's so important that we learn de-escalation skills. Police aren't very good at de-escalating, and counter-protesters, their goal is to escalate, but de-escalation skills are such an important tool in our toolbox. We've got to learn how to gray rock these guys. We've got to learn how to help move our people back, get them refocused on the purpose of our event, and not feed the energy of counter-protesters at all. They're there to derail you. Keep your eyes on the prize. Don't give them any energy. We stay the course. Okay, so that's the version of events from OPB and from Eugene Police and from Congresswoman Val Hoyle. But then today, a couple of friends sent me this post from Carol Scherer, who is a trusted, well-known, longtime Eugene activist. Right, folks in Oregon will vouch for her. I'm just going to read you her post again. Forgive the googly eye filter, not at home. Youth and punks laudatory were out at the federal building on Friday. Hundreds were out there and throughout the day and into evening yesterday. And the feds have been busy injuring and tear gassing protesters at the federal building here and in Portland, where they attacked and gassed a labor-initiated mass march, including families and children. I was at that march. Springfield Police and Eugene Police supported DHS on Friday night and declared a riot. Many may have seen that Trump truthed about Eugene, Oregon, which carries some additional threat of escalation. Oregon is a sanctuary state. Our law enforcement are not supposed to collaborate with immigration and customs enforcement. We fielded a number of questions about the events of Friday and Saturday night, and it's not possible to address them all in a unified way in a forum like this. We encourage folks to pay attention to their own risk level, the type of activity they are comfortable engaging in, and recognize that successful movements involve many people with many different strategic and tactical orientations, and that history making is not neat, clean, or monotone. It only looks like that in the school books. This is why so many of us say we're swimming in the same direction. We're not all necessarily riding the same boat. We're not all necessarily taking the exact same approach, but we're all moving in the same direction. We want to stop fascism. We want to protect our neighbors. We want to build a better America. It's also important to remember, listen to this part, fascists lie, police lie, they engage in public relations operations to win support, demobilize people, threaten, and turn people against one another. Straight facts there. Many things we can see with our own eyes, and it's important to believe our own eyes. Many things are simply reported or announced by DHS, CBP, ICE, Trump, EPD, or SPD, and that's Springfield Police Department. And it is valuable to train ourselves to not reflexively believe those things. We all need a healthy dose of skepticism right now. Look at how Kristi Noem, Greg Bovino, Donald Trump, JD Vance, Stephen, Grima Wormtongue Miller, they just lie through their fucking teeth. We should not be trusting those in authority. We should not be trusting anybody from the government or law enforcement who is declaring that something is a certain way. Don't trust. And don't let them gaslight you into discounting what you see with your own eyes or what you experience with your own body in your community. So this part here, for example, despite police and administration claims that rioters breached the building on Friday, the attached video shows a federal agent from inside the building smashing out the window. Carol concludes, it is critical for our ability to robustly maintain unity of action in the face of escalating federal attacks and counterinsurgency with local law enforcement complicity, that we remember this fact, which many oppressed communities in the United States have long known, which many more sectors of society came to know in 2020, and which more are learning today. Our movement is winning. If we take ourselves seriously, we must understand that the administration does not want to lose and will do anything to defeat us. PR campaigns to turn people against each other, among the least resource intensive of those things. We don't need to engage in or agree with all actions that take place to insist maintaining a disciplined understanding of who is responsible for these harms as we build toward more unified fight back.